My presentation is titled, Is a Guide Dog Right for You? For a really important reason. And that is that guide dogs aren't always right for everyone. And my job is to help guide you to making the best decision that's right for you individually. I'm not some sleazy car salesman. I don't make a commission off of the number of guide dogs that we produce every year. Our ultimate goal here is not just putting dogs into the hands of those that need them, but then ensuring a lifetime of success that follows afterwards. And a huge component of creating success within our teams in the future is the vetting process and making sure that we're giving dogs to people that are qualified for them, are going to use them, demonstrate a need for them, are just a great fit, and are going to put in the work necessary to forming that success. So today I'm going to talk about our school a lot. Part of this conversation, unfortunately for me, is that our school might not always be right for everyone. So I got to put that out there into the open. With that said, this presentation is a little bit different. You guys are local, so it's a lot of it is location based. When I'm making this speech, I'll say, if you're from Northern California, we might not be right for you. If you're from Florida, you might want to go to your local school. In this case, we are your local school, and that presents a lot of benefits for you that people nationwide don't necessarily always reap. So the first part of this, I kind of like to run through. I like to be as short as possible while giving you guys the most important information. I start by telling you a little bit. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history. Go ahead, Wanda.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know that this session is being recorded. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. So I like to give a little bit about the history. I like to give a little bit about the process. And then Wanda presented me some questions that came up in the last session that we did. And I'll answer those too. And I'll answer some of the major talking points that I usually hear. We've been around for 70 years. We've been in Los Angeles for about 60 of them. We were founded by a guy named Joseph Jones who lost his vision in his 50s. And when he went to get a guide dog at 55 years old, he was denied from all the schools at the time. They said, this is in 1948, mind you. They said, Joe, you're too old. If we give you a dog, the dog's going to outlive you. It's not a good investment on our behalf, which is just the worst thing in the world to hear, because he knew that he had a lot of independence left. He had a lot of life left. And so the determined man that he was, he created a school and formed Guide Dogs of America based on the idea that regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of the color of your skin, you too can get a guide dog, and it should be free of charge. And we hold true to that statement to this day. It's our founding principle. Our campus, like I said, has been here about 40 years. Over the past 5 years, it's really taken on a different look. We've built a brand new visitor and education center that has an auditorium for training. We recently redid our entire dormitories and admin offices. And this year we're taking on the kennels, and we're doing a full renovation of our kennels. There's about 7 acres here, and it's beautiful. There's sequoia trees. It's like, I like to liken it, if you've ever seen that movie Happy Gilmore, it's Happy's happy place. The guide dog process starts from, when they say just a twinkle in your mother's eye. We do all of our breeding here on campus. We breed Labrador retrievers predominantly. So if you're wondering what type of breed of dogs we do, this is where you're going to hear, and this is where you're going to know kind of what you're looking at. We breed predominantly Labrador retrievers. They're just the best at what they do. They're really trainable. They're really low maintenance. They're loving, smart, intelligent dogs. We breed golden retrievers. We then also create a hybrid between golden retrievers and labs. We call them lab golden crosses. And they basically look like a Labrador, but with some golden, lovey-dovey features, and maybe a little bump in the head, maybe a little feathering in the coat. And then we also breed German Shepherds. Like I said, when I started this, it's predominantly labs. It's like 75, 80% labs. I would say another 10 to 15% are the crosses, which are basically labs. And then it's like 5% Goldens, 5% Shepherds. So if you're interested in getting a Golden or a Shepherd, we can certainly accommodate that. It just comes with the warning that it takes longer. Which brings me to another question that we got in the last session was, can I have a say in what dog I want? And I'll get into that later, but when you do make a preference, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So the puppies are born here and they are in training from the minute that they're born. We have this super brave volunteer job on campus called puppy hugging, in which volunteers go in and have to do the brave work of hugging a puppy and getting it used to humans. So when you receive your dog is like, okay, I know humans. They're the coolest people in the world. I love these guys. They hugged me from the minute that I was born. And from there, we start working with them outside, getting them used to different sights, senses, smells, sounds. When you're working with your dog and you're walking down the street, there's a lot of distractions going on. So say you're going down the street and there's a construction site and someone's using a jackhammer. Your dog needs to know and be used to the sound of a jackhammer so that it's not distracted from its work. If it's never heard the sound of a jackhammer and the first time it hears it is when it's walking with you, it's going to jump and become afraid. Whereas if we get them used to these sounds as a puppy or these feels as a puppy, they're kind of confident enough. They're like, oh, I've heard a jackhammer before. That's no big deal. I can keep doing my job. I know that's not going to hurt me. When the puppies leave us at 8 weeks old and they go home to these incredible people that we call puppy raisers. Puppy raisers are located throughout Southern California, and they're responsible for allowing your dog to grow up and mature, teaching it basic obedience, house manners, how to become like just a really well-behaved dog. Because from 8 weeks to about 16 months, we can't really train them. They're not mature enough. We don't know all the health side effects that are going to come with it. So we give them to volunteers, they turn them into incredible dogs, and then sadly, we have to use the jaws of life to pry them back and get them back for training. Once the dog enters formal training, it's between usually 3 to 9 months. It's an average of 6 months of formal guide dog training. As the dogs start coming back for training, we do extensive health checks. We have to drop a lot of dogs for various reasons because ultimately when they go to you, we want you to have a perfect product. If a dog has bad hips or bad elbows, you're not going to get that long of a working life out of the dog. So we have to check for all that to make sure that you're hopefully going to get the 8, 10, 12 years out of your working dog. If the dogs pass health, they're out working with trainers. The trainers take them all throughout Southern California, once again exposing them to a variety of situations. Every one of you that's on this call leads a different life and experiences different environments in your day-to-day activities. So we can't predict which dog is going to go to who, so they have to be prepared for everything. So these dogs are exposed to the beach, they're exposed to Target, they're exposed to the mall, they're exposed to subways and public transportation, they're exposed to places that are covered in sidewalks. They're also exposed to places that might not have a sidewalk. So if you might live in New York City and there's always a sidewalk, but your classmate might live in Oklahoma and there's not a sidewalk in miles. So our dogs are prepared for every type of environment. We take what we call a well-balanced approach to training. This is what differentiates a lot of different schools is their approach towards training. Some schools adhere to treat training. So when you want your dog to do a command, you give it kibble to tell it that it did a good job or whatever. We put a large emphasis on praise reward and your bond between you and the dog. We don't want your dog doing something just because it knows that there's kibble at the other end. We want your dog to do something because it says, when I walk through that door, John is going to get satisfaction, and I love John more than anybody in this entire world. So through the training, the first time we want the dog to do something, say stop at a curb, we will give it kibble and the dog's like, okay, I stopped at the curb. That was a good thing to do. I got kibble afterwards. That's delicious. Maybe the next time that I get to a curb, I'm going to get kibble again. So I'm going to stop the next time. Well, the next time our trainers, instead of giving it kibble, get down and give the dog a huge hug. They're like, oh my God, Fido, you're the best dog in the whole world. And the dog's wagging its tail. It's kissing the dog on the face. It's this beautiful moment. And the dog the next time is like, okay, if I stop at this curb, I know they're going to be pumped and they love me and I love when they love me. So I'm going to do things right. And that's kind of our approach to training, is the bond between you and the dog, working as a team, based on a lot of love and a lot of praise. Now, you know how it kind of works, but what does a guide dog do? The most basic thing that a guide dog does at its core is it's a straight line method. So it keeps you on a straight line from point A to point B. We all naturally have veers, so you either veer to the right, veer to the left. We have to be conscious of that, and your dog is supposed to kind of guide you through that. On that straight line method, it's also trained to avoid obstacles. So if there's a cone in the middle of the road, think about your process right now with a cane. You're walking down the sidewalk, some Department of Works guy is fixing something and put a cone there and didn't tell you, of course. And you have to come up to that cone and either hit it with your cane or maybe even stumble over it. A guide dog's going to see that bright orange cone from 20 yards away. It's going to start walking you around it, and you might not even ever know that that cone was there. Places of busy traffic like malls are a nightmare. The guide dog's going to keep you out of bumping in from anything in the mall. If you're in a cafeteria or at a restaurant, it's going to keep you away from any obstacles that are going to get in your way. The next thing that is really important about a guide dog is we call it intelligent disobedience. So this is my favorite way of describing this is you and I are walking with our dogs up a mountain, and we get to the top of the mountain, and at the top of the mountain there's a cliff. Now, because we're visually impaired, we don't see that cliff is there. Our guide dogs are trained to stop at any change in elevation, especially dramatic ones like a cliff. Now, you're going to stop there and you're going to say, why did this guide dog stop? And you're going to say, hey, forward. And your dog's not going to go. Your dog's intelligently disobeying your order because it knows that there's danger on the other side of that command. I use a cliff for extremely dramatic purposes, but there's cliffs in everyday life that we're, aware of or not aware of. Staircase landings, train platforms, they stop at any change in elevation. So curbs are a huge one. You probably have missed the curb and walked over and rolled your ankle. A guide dog stops at every curb. And then from curb to curb, once again, back to the straight line method, it's going to get you across the street right to the other side. Some other things that our guide dogs do is over time they learn common routes. So if you work in an office setting and there's a bathroom, and let's say you need to go to the bathroom, over time your guide dog will learn, okay, from the desk to the bathroom, that's the route, and you're just going to do it like second nature. It's just guide dog, walking with a guide dog is just such a smoother, relaxed mode of transportation. A lot of our clients come back and it's kind of uncanny. After a year, there's like a year mark that they hit with their dog, and we call it the moment. And they tell us about their moment. They say, I had my moment today. And what it usually relates to is they recognize that they were no longer thinking about what they were doing while they were walking, and they had the peace of mind to walk freely, confidently, independently, and they were kind of, whether it's good or bad, in the clouds. It wasn't so stressful for them. Walking with their guide dog has become second nature. One student put it best. They said, at this point, I don't know where my arm ends and the guide dog handle begins, because they're just one fluid team. So is a guide dog right for you? Are you ready for a guide dog? Kind of synonymous. We'll go through some requirements quickly. Most of you, if you're part of this session, should meet these requirements. The first one is that you're legally blind, which is under 2200 vision or less than 20 degrees peripheral. You have to be physically able to walk 1 to 2 miles a day. Some things that can get in the way is if you need to use a cane. We don't train clients to use guide dogs if they have to use the support of a cane. A guide dog isn't a stability brace. It's a guide dog. It's there to guide you. You need to be able to walk independently. You have to be 18 years or older. This one's a little fickle. Is, do you have meaningful work for a guide dog? So you have to demonstrate a use case. You have to say, listen, I go to the Braille Center, I go to the store, I go to the library. You don't have to say, like, I'm going to the White House every day to solve the world's problems, but you have to have a few reasons in which you're going to use the dog. The last one is the most important one, and I'm glad that Kima's on for this. I wish I could see everybody. Well, I don't know how to change the way that my screen views. Did my camera just turn off? Let's see. I'm trying to change my view setting, but the most important part of getting a guide dog and guide dog training is orientation and mobility. A guide dog is a way to enhance your mobility skills. It's not a substitute. So you have, and you work as a team. We stress this so much. Our mission statement says it, partnerships with service dogs. You guys are partners. You have to be able to read traffic. You have to be an independent traveler. You have to be able to solve problems when you get disoriented. Orientation and mobility, as you all know, is not just some breeze. You're going to have moments where you get tripped up. How you react in those moments is critical for our training department. If someone's going to have a breakdown the minute that things go awry, that puts our dogs in a very dangerous situation. So the next part is the matching process. And this kind of gets into the application as well. I'm actually, Wanda, are you still there? Oh, Kima, I can't hear you, Kima.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kima, I'm going to put this information in the chat for you to disperse afterwards. It's how to apply, and I'll go over this again and again and again through the rest of the presentation, but there's just a few ways to do it. The application starts on our website, hopefully. If you don't feel comfortable completing it through the website, I just put a phone and an email that goes to our admissions department. Our admissions manager's name is Greg Steinmetz. Greg is a guide dog. He's visually impaired and he's a guide dog user himself. He's me times a bajillion in terms of talking about this stuff. I always tell people I can talk till I'm blue in the face about guide dogs, but coming from a guide dog handler, it's just so much more powerful, and he might have answers to questions that I can't answer as someone who's sighted. There's a phone number there, and there's also an email there. I also put in a hyperlink to our website. Our website's simple. It's guidedogsofamerica.org. You can even type in guidedogsofamerica.org/admissions, and it'll take you right to the guide dog application. There's an online introductory application that you can start filling out. It's really simple, but I'll run through that in a quick second. I'm going to get back to, actually, I'll get to that right now. So the application includes some basic information, your name, where you live, yada, yada, yada. You need an ophthalmologist report certifying that you are in fact legally blind. You need a physician's report that states you're healthy. There's some things in there like TB tests. It's also stating that you're physically able to handle a guide dog. In most cases, you're going to have a 60-pound Labrador Retriever in your life. If you don't have the strength to manage that, we need to know, because it just might not be a good fit. Once again, the guide dog might not be right for you if you can't handle the strength of a youthful dog. The orientation and mobility evaluation, that's going to come from Miss Kima here probably. She's basically going to state, yes, I think this person's demonstrated a good use, that their orientation mobility skills are up to snuff in order to receive a guide dog. I know there's a lot of things that I'm saying, I can't stress this enough. If there's one takeaway, it is your orientation mobility skills have to be strong. And Kima knows, it's not so much just re-entering a whole training. There's specific things that you might need to brush up on or work on. There's certain traits that are conducive to getting to a guide dog. in the time, the application process takes on average 6 months. And I'm going to get into the matching process. A lot of that is about matching and classes and stuff like that. In that time, we like to say, go brush up, take a class, get an outing. I don't know what services are like right now. This is obviously a little bit different of a time. But even if you're talking with Kima about some things that you might be able to do at home on your own, that might help advance your orientation, give you confidence. You want to be confident coming into this. You don't want to feel like a constricted traveler coming into this. Do it. What's the worst that happens? Even if you're not getting a guide dog, it's always good to work on your orientation and mobility skills. At the end, the last part of your application outside of the doctors, the orientation we start with a video assessment. So we'll have you will have a friend or Kima or someone from Braille videotape kind of a brief day in the life. What does your morning route look like? What are your cane skills like at this time? This is us starting to collect data to create the best match for you. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on here at Guide Dogs of America is the strength of our matches. I talked about earlier, it's about, finding the right applicants, but then if we have the right applicant, it's our job to find you the best dog that's going to fit your needs. You submit a video, we gather a little bit of data, and we continue that assessment in the first 3 days of class. The first 3 days of class, you don't have your dog. It's us working with you with a thing that we call Juno, which is just like an empty harness or an empty leash. We're teaching you how to use the dogs. It's kind of like dance lessons. Working with a guide dog is like dancing. It's you and your partner tangoing through life. And God forbid on your first date, you don't know how to tango and you're stepping on your date and she thinks you're like the worst guy in the world or the worst girl in the world. The dog selection is a very fickle process. Everybody needs a different dog. And it's usually, we might have 40 dogs here and there's like one that we think is right for you. They're really that picky. Some of that is subjective, some of that's objective. So, height, speed, your stability needs, your veer, your gait, those are all physical things that we look into when choosing a dog for you. So like I'm 6'4", I need a bigger dog that's going to be able to handle me. But someone else might be 6'4" and walk way faster than me. I'm not necessarily the fastest walker in the world. So once again, same height, same weight, same everything, except they need a totally different dog than I do. Then what we think makes our trainers special, most schools will say this, but what makes the guide dog matching process so special is the personality and kind of some of the intangibles. As I said, we might have 1, 2, 3 dogs that we think might be right for you, and we come to class and we get to know you. Okay, is this person really social? Oh, well, this dog's a social butterfly. They're going to get along great. Is this dog kind of more reserved? They're going to need a more mellow dog that kind of fits their wavelength. It's hard, it's impossible to describe, but 99 out of 100 times we drill it, and it's like the coolest thing in the world to see. And then you look at these people, it's like those commercials you see where people with curly hair have poodles or they look like their dogs. The personalities just fit together so well. It's like one and one. So it's truly, truly special. So classes, this is where I talk about class. It's hard to say what we have for classes right now. I actually don't know. It's so up in the air and moving. But as you get through the application process, we'll talk about available classes for you, when the next date we could get you in. I just don't feel comfortable giving a hard set, hey, we're having class here, here, and here in the middle of a pandemic. We have no idea what tomorrow holds. In a typical year, we hold 6 classes with 10 students each. I can tell you for a fact right now, mid-COVID, class sizes won't be 10. I think we have a class of 5 coming in next week for social distancing. It's from all over the United States and Canada, people from all different walks of life, all different ages. It's like the old Dr. Seuss book, 1 fish, 2 fish, green fish, blue fish. Everybody's different. And it's amazing because these people from all different walks of life come together and they become best friends through these 3-week classes. It's 3 weeks long, and that's another thing that differentiates us from the different guide dog programs. A lot of schools have adopted a 2-week class program. That might, for some people on this call, whether you work or you can't be away from home that long, a 2-week class might be better for you. We think that the 3-week class, the reason we do it is we think it's the best way of learning how to use a guide dog. I equate it to another metaphor here, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. 2 weeks is too hot. There's so much for you guys to do, to learn, to bond with your dog. It's just too much for us to pack into 2 weeks. 3 weeks is just right. 4 weeks would be too long. You know, if you're here for that 4th week, you're like, okay, I know how to do this already. Let me go home. I'm a pro. The first 2 weeks are really learning intensive. The 3rd week is really all about independence. I'll walk through kind of what class includes. Classes, it's intense. Bring a new pair of shoes. You're probably going to get shin splints. You know, it's not a joke. You have to be ready and prepared for class. It's not just about us teaching you how to walk with your guide dog down the street. It's not that simple. There's lectures every day in the morning and in the afternoon, sometimes 2-3 times a day, about how to take care of your guide dog. What are the obedience features that it knows? You know, how do you tell it to sit down, stay, walk, you know, walk the way that you want it to? How do you relieve your guide dog? You know, a common question we get is, how do I pick up after my guide dog? Well, these dogs are trained from puppyhood by their puppy raisers to go to the bathroom in a way that is easy for people that are visually impaired to use. You hold it on a leash. It only has a circle of length. You wait for the dog to stop moving, and then you feel for an arched back or a slanted back, and that's how you kind of know. We teach you about grooming. You know, grooming is a really important moment and special moment between you and your dog. One, you want your dog to be in good shape. You know, we don't want stinky, furry, sheddy guide dogs of America walking around the country. The other part is it's a good time for you to check in with your dog. Let's see the health of my dog. Is there maybe a cut or a scrape or a lump that I can't see that I can now feel while I'm grooming the dog? Even something as dumb as acceptable toys, like what do we recommend your dog plays with? We cover all of that. It's really intensive. As I was alluding to, the first week, you start off slow. It's just you work, the first 3 days are you working with your trainer, with Juno. They're still gathering more data on what dog is going to be the right match for you. You're going to walk, with a handle for the first time. You're going to do some basic routes for the first time, which all leads up to the best day in the entire world, bar none, no matter what anybody tells you. Dog day is on Wednesday. I usually go in to lunch on Wednesdays and kind of give a little spiel like, hey, I'm going to be taking pictures if you don't want your picture taken. And everybody's like, yeah, whatever, dude, shut up. I want my dog. Like, I'm ready. And we bring the dogs in, and it's just such a cool moment where we tell you, what the dog's name is, if it's a boy, how old it is. It's a big moment for people's wardrobes too, I'll warn you that. So there's people that like to wear all black or all white, and the people that wear dark colors end up getting a yellow lab, and they're on the floor laying with their dog, and I walk back in and they look like Big Bird afterwards, and I'm like, you're gonna need to trade in for some khakis or something else, because this is not gonna work for you moving forward. It's an amazing day, but that's about it in terms of I shouldn't say fun, because the whole thing's fun, but in terms of relaxedness, because it's hit the ground running with your dog after that. We want to get as many reps in as possible. The end of that week, I call it muscle memory, and I alluded to, the first time that you do anything like swinging a golf club, driving a car. It's really awkward. You're really not fluid. You swing the club and you shank it, and you're like, how am I ever going to do this? But then you just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and you get comfortable and more comfortable and better at it until it becomes second nature. That's what this is about. It's something as simple as walking up and down the street with your dog. It sounds dramatic, but we're reteaching you how to walk. People are so used to walking with their cane. They're staring at the ground. They're going really slow. They're slouched over. We're sitting there like pushing your back and making you stand up straight, making you look forward. You're not beholden to the ground anymore. There's a whole world out there for you to see and be aware of, and we have to teach you to recognize that. Week 2, we ramp it up. It's much more challenging. it's about getting you back into showing you kind of what you can do with your guide dog now. There's a lot of cool things. I keep talking about malls. We put a huge emphasis on the mall just because it's such a challenge. And there's a lot of different things in a mall that kind of are in everyday life, the tight spaces, the people. You know, think about being in a mall. You're gonna have this beautiful yellow lab, and every kid, every teenage girl, every guy, everybody is gonna come up to you and be like, "Oh my God, can I pet your dog?" We need to teach you how to manage that. We take you on public transportation. So we go down to Pasadena, we put you on a train, you go out and you come back. This is how you do that. I think the scariest moment that I hear from students is the night walk. A lot of people that come to class obviously have some vision during the day and then are totally blind at night. And because of that, they're afraid to, go out at night or have stopped going out at night. And with your guide dog, it's a big moment of trust. It's like this four-legged companion that you met a week ago. We need to show you that you can trust it even when you can't see. And you need to just go and do it on the feel and not on what you're looking at. Week 3, which I already alluded to, is about independence. It's okay, what refinements do we need to make? What do we see that we think you could improve on? We're sending you home with our dog, whether at the end of this 3-week, we need to be comfortable sending you home and you need to be comfortable going home. And then we also prepare you for going home. It's not as simple as just, okay, I'm home, like I got a guide dog. Our curriculum's so based on bond that if you go home and you just let the dog run free, you let your family members start feeding it, the dogs can get distracted from its mission and it's going to be kind of difficult. We need you to understand that, hey, this is your dog. You need to keep up everything that, we've spent 2 years keeping this dog on a schedule, getting ready to bond with you. Don't mess it up. Furthermore, it's kind of prepping you for the idea that it's not just, okay, I graduated, woohoo, like we always tell people we have a graduation ceremony at the end. The graduation ceremony is for everyone, you being kind of on the lesser part. Yes, you completed the class, congratulations, we're very proud and it's amazing for us. But for you, there's so much work left to do. You're basically on your second date with this companion that you're gonna have for the next 10 years. It's not over. You're not married yet. You need to keep working on this thing. And there's going to be bumps along the way, but we're there every step of the way. We're there over the phone. We're there. If you need us to come out, we're there for you in person. It's a challenge, but it's all about getting those reps in. And as I talked about at the beginning, you're going to hit a 1-year mark and you're going to be like, okay, I had my moment. I'm not thinking about tripping over a curb, or I'm not thinking about every right and left that I'm taking. I'm just kind of doing it now. I'm just independent, I'm free, I'm flowing. So we do a lot of follow-ups. We do 2-week follow-ups, 6-week follow-ups. You get a lifetime of support. Some bonuses, some perks that we give you. We give you a discount on heart and flea and tick medication. We sell it to you at cost. We'll ship it to you. You get veterinarian services here on campus. You also get phone support from the veterinarian. So if something's wrong with your dog, we encourage you to call us first. Remember, your dog, we have like 40, 50 of its siblings that might have similar issues. We have a ton of data and we can kind of work through, okay, it's doing this. We've seen this in this litter. This is what it is. And then you can always bring the dog to campus if it's a big emergency. Like, we'll do everything and cover the cost. We just don't cover cost out of pocket for emergency visits outside of our program. You can always come to campus for grooming. You can always come to campus for boarding. Say you're going on a cruise to Hawaii and you're like, you know what, I'd rather just travel by cane for the week. That's totally fine. We'll take your dog back. We'll give it a bath. We'll clip its nails. We might even put it back into training. And when you come back, it's like your car was just serviced. There's a couple important, I'm starting to get to your questions, Wanda. An important thing that differentiates us from other schools is that we transfer ownership after a year of you owning the dog. For the first year, we retain ownership. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. Like, it's your dog. We're not checking in, we're not coming back and revoking your dog. It's just a break in case of emergency policy that we have in case we find out that one of our partnerships wasn't technically going right, we have the right to take the dog back. After a year, we transfer ownership to you. It's fully your dog. The only thing that we retain ownership of is the harness. So 4, 5, 6 years down the line, we hear, okay, the dog's ready for retirement, but they're still working it. We can always ask for the harness back because it's your safety and the dog's safety is in our best interest. Wanda posed the question to me, what happens to guide dogs when they retire? I'll try to be as quick as possible. I know you haven't even applied to get a guide dog yet. It seems a little crazy, but the question comes up all the time. There's so many different outcomes that happen when a guide dog retires, but it's your decision. You'll know kind of when time is coming. Your dog might start slowing down. You might go to the door and grab the harness and the dog doesn't jump up and run to the door like it used to. It's kind of like, you know what, I'd rather sleep in today. I've worked my tail off for you. Guide work is hard. It's hard on dogs. They're walking with you, pulling you. They're kind of thinking 24/7. It ages them. And well, it's hard to, talk about retirement this early on. When that happens, you can retain ownership of the dog. And keep it until it passes. You can, if you can't manage, say you want another guide dog and you can't have 2 dogs where you live or you don't want 2 dogs, you can give the dog to, people of your choosing. Say there's a family member that would be great with it, or the person that puppy raised it always, it's like the coolest call for them. They're like, okay, yeah, I'll totally take my dog back, whatever, I'll be there in a minute. If none of those options work out, we have a retirement list that reaches over to Japan of people that are like, anytime retired dogs, an old highly trained dog is like the hottest commodity on the market. With that said, like it's your choice. Another one of Wanda's questions was, do you have to pay for guide dogs? There's no cost associated with our program whatsoever. They're completely free of charge. Part of my job is fundraising and marketing and making sure that we have enough money so that we can produce 60 free guide dog teams a year for people that need them. That includes transportation to campus. So if you're in San Diego, you could either, we would arrange probably like a train or a bus or something like that. You could have a family member drive you up, whatever. While you're here for 3 weeks, you get a whole room and board. I didn't even talk about the dorms. We have beautiful brand new dormitories, recently renovated. You get your own bed, fridge, TV. It's outfitted with all of the latest and greatest in technology. I like to say, if I yell Alexa down the dorms, I get like 80 responses. The lights flicker, the toilets flush. Everything's assistive technology now. While you're here, we have a chef on staff. They cater to all of your unique dietary needs. If you're gluten-free, if you're diabetic, whatever it may be, if you're allergic to foods, she'll make sure that you're fed. People actually get a little cranky because they say, like, I was coming to guide dog school, I thought I was going to be doing all this walking and I was going to lose 5 pounds, and now I'm leaving here overweight. Like, it didn't work out the way that they thought because the food was so good. Everything's free. The only, the cost associated with having a guide dog is that you're responsible for food. It's about 40 to 50 bucks a month. We feed the dogs Purina, and we do that for a reason, is that it might not be like the best food in the world. The best food in the world is like a raw diet, and it's like $180 a month. We're not feeding all of our dogs that. And we're not feeding our dogs a $100 bag of kibble, even though it might be a little bit better. Purina is the best food that we found at the cheapest price point because we want it to be affordable for people. We want there's so many use cases for using a simple food like that. Like, say you're traveling and you forgot to pack food. Well, Purina is going to be at every store. You're going to always be able to find it. Some other things, the flea and tick, I think adds up to like $5 a month. You're going to need toys for the dog, like little accessory costs. I think we say to expect like 50 to 60 bucks a month for a dog. With that said, and I've never gotten a straight answer on this. There's a certain level of Social Security that does provide a stipend for having a guide dog. It's either SSDI or SSI. I'm not an expert on it. You'd have to check with them. They'll provide a stipend through California or through the federal government for basically it equates to like $40 a month for the dog food. The average cost of, that was your next question, Wanda, what is the average cost of owning a guide dog per year? We don't really put it in a per year, it's more per month basis, 40, 50, 60 bucks. It's around that. The veterinary cost, we cover all of them here. If you bring your dog to campus, we don't cover them if you have to bring it to a personal vet. So we advise using us if you're worried about the cost of the vet. It's pretty, there's some ways to make it easy, like we know we're 2 hours away. It's not the easiest trip to make, but maybe once a year you bring your dog to campus, you have it groomed, you have it see the vet, you do a checkup once a year. It's not that bad. It's one day out of your life and we get to see you. So we're excited. Does insurance pay for a guide dog? No, but that leads me to another thing, is that there is, in terms of veterinary costs, there is dog insurance policies that you can have. We have a blog on our website right now. If you're worried about the emergency costs of a vet visit, then you should look into pet insurance, because they'll cover anything that might, go awry. That would be a big ticket item. We just had a grad who used it. A guy in Boston, Dave, his dog Bernie required an emergency surgery, and it was like a $2,000 surgery, and he paid nothing out of pocket. So, well, we don't say you have to get pet insurance or you should get in pet insurance. We do say you should at least explore financially what it looks like for you and what the outcomes are, and be prepared for an emergency. And is there a preferred time of year to get a guide dog? We actually don't hold classes in like the dead heat of summer. Classes are just so all over the place now. We don't know. No, there's no really preferred time of year. If you like, the heat and you're comfortable with it, then let's say you might want to be here in September, October. If you really hate the heat, then you might want to wait to December. But picking a time to come to class isn't so much at your liberty. It's going to be when there's a class available, when you're ready, when you get the application done, and then when we find a match for you. Back to the matching process, like people are going to have preferences or whatever. It's really difficult to find the right dog for people. So it's just, when the time comes and we have a dog for you, I just say, get here and get in and get out. So I know I just rambled for about 35 minutes straight. I'm sure there's quite a few questions. I hope I covered a lot.
Oh, you did. Zach, thank you so much for addressing all the list of questions that I sent you. But I would like to ask our audience at this time, does anyone have a question for Zach based on anything that you've heard? He shared a tremendous amount of information, and we really appreciate it. But now would be time if you have a question.
Wanda, I have a question. I don't know how to raise my hand, so I'm blurting out in.
It's okay. Go for it, Malcolm.
Okay. Basically, you mentioned about the dog stopping at hazards like a cliff, and you use a curb. With curbs having the cutouts and the yellow pads, do you train your dog to look for the yellow and stop on the yellow pad?
It's a hard question to answer. It knows downslopes, so like when it comes up to a curb, it's more often than not going to go to the downslope. Whether that's yellow or not, or whether they recognize the yellow and like that difference, I'm not totally sure on. But the curb training is like the #1 training thing. There's also traffic training. I always miss stuff. Good reminder, traffic training. I didn't even get into traffic training, which is like the actual #1 thing. Dogs stop for any oncoming traffic. They are trained to never walk out in front of a car. We test extensively here. I don't want to say we've never had an accident, but we've never had an accident that it was the dog's fault. We do, if they're, the few times, I think I've had 1 or 2 since I've been here, and we found that there was something else at fault. The dog's never going to walk out. But it's up to you. You have to be a teammate in those situations and listen for traffic yourself.
Also, do you suggest, or is it required, or what is it? What is the status of walking the dog with a cane also? Do you not need a cane?
So yeah, good question. It brings up an old theory. When you're walking with a guide dog, you don't use a cane. The philosophy used to be before I started working here, long before I started working here, cane users would come to guide dog class and the trainers would say, throw your cane in the trash. You're never going to use that thing again. That philosophy has shifted a lot over the recent years to there's a great time to use a guide dog and there's a great time to use a cane. So what we recommend is you always carry an ID cane on you. You're usually going to have to carry a little thing for the dog. You just slip it in the backpack. It's for unfamiliar situations or times that you might not need your dog, and you'll find, when you might not need your dog. It's like, imagine every time you went, say you lived next to a grocery store, you wouldn't get in the car to drive over the 2 feet. You might rather just use your cane to get over there. If you're in, say you've never been somewhere before, that's a dangerous situation with your unfamiliarity. Whip out your cane and use it. But no, typically when you're walking with your guide dog, you're just walking with the guide dog.
Okay, so I try to walk my dog. I have a dog right now, and we try to walk 2 to 5 miles a day on the sidewalk around the neighborhood. Sidewalks have cracks in them where the concrete is raised up because of a tree root or something. Would a guide dog see that and warn you? Or again, a cane with my cane, I use my cane, I can feel that, and then I know to step up over it.
Yep. So that one obviously is more challenging for a guide dog, but it does recognize those. So a guide dog, when it's walking, is looking for 2 things: hazards on the ground, hazards at your eye line. If you say bump your head on a tree, it might not have seen it the first time, but I'll bet you what, once you stop, show it what you're looking for, it's going to avoid it the second time. Same with cracks on the ground. If it's a major crack, it's most likely going to stop. If it's minor and something you might trip over, you might stumble the first time, but you have to stop and say, it might just stop, and you're going to recognize it and be like, okay, and then you figure out a way as a team to work around it. So yes, it's trained to stop at cracks.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
no problem.
so Zach, we have another question. There's another hand raised, and then we have a question in the chat. So I'd like to go to Carol right now. Are you okay with time, Zach? It's about 11:59.
I have all the time in the world. Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, Carol, go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Zach. I have 2 questions in regards to the dog, and when you're walking on sidewalks, etc. In my neighborhood, there's a lot of kids that ride skateboards and scooters and electric bikes even on the sidewalk. Do they recognize those? Do they pull to the side for those? Do they stop to acknowledge those things? So I don't see them until they get a lot closer to me, but I'm sure the dog would obviously see it way in front of me. So how would that experience go? That's question 1.
So say there's someone that's skateboarding down the street and you're on a narrow sidewalk, your guide dog's probably going to slow down and stop until it knows that it's clear. And, as someone in the public, say I was riding a skateboard and I was doing that, I'd probably pick up the skateboard, walk around, and then it'd be free to go. So it just creates kind of like a moment of pause for you. If it's someone completely blocking, it's going to stop. If it's someone partially blocking, it could walk you around. Say you're walking through the street, it's going to guide you through until someone truly might get in your way. But that's the great thing about having a dog. And we, once again, another thing that I kind of brushed over is that it's twofold. People are going to see your dog and kind of know now, okay, this person's visually impaired where they might not before. People are going to move out of the way a little bit more and be more conscientious of you and recognize your blindness because of the dog. The other part of that, as I talked about kind of in the mall segment, people are going to come up to you more. These beautiful dogs welcome a lot of social interaction. So it kind of goes both ways. And I know that's a long answer to your question, but I hope I answered it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and then my next question is, to qualify for your school, because I have reviewed your website and everything, you did the orientation ability training. I'm definitely legal blind and birth, etc. But do you have to use a cane to be qualify? Be approved for a dog? Because I don't use a cane because I just take my time. If there's something that's getting closer, but it's kind of like big things that I see, like skateboarders and so I don't use a cane right now. But is that something that's a requirement to have to use a cane before you can utilize a dog?
Short answer, no. It's not a requirement. It's heavily preferred. In a case where you don't use a cane, it's going to make, I think, your acceptance maybe a little bit more challenging. But it ultimately, like Kima, are you her O&M or?
Yeah. Kima, are you
Right.
there?
Well, Carol and I have never met face to face yet, so we've just been meeting in our O&M Essentials class. So Carol's just getting started. Yeah.
Yeah. So Carol, I don't want to. I'm not an O&M instructor, so I'm not giving you any recommendations. I'm just telling you how it would
Absolutely.
go. Without using a cane, it would just make the application process probably a little bit more challenging. It would come down to our training department really working with Kima, really seeing and working with you to understand if someone that's not using a cane has the orientation mobility skills. It's definitely, we've definitely given dogs to people that haven't used canes before. It's just rare. And I don't think that we, necessarily reject a lot of people because they don't use a cane. It's rare to see, so it's going to be a kind of, each case is so different. So what I recommend is you keep working with Kima. If you're really interested in applying for a guide dog, call and talk to our admissions department, Greg. Greg might have more of an answer for you. I suspect he's probably going to talk to you a little bit more about getting more O&M under your belt. But with that said, like I kind of talked about the O&M stuff, you can start an application. You can get your name in the door. We can kind of start feeling out and looking for dogs that might be right for you while you're filling out the application. And you're still working on your O&M, and at the end of the 6 months when you're finally ready, or a year, O&M takes a different amount of times. At least you've got it started and you're ready, and then we can it's that one last piece that we mail in. Okay, her O&M, she's ready to go. Let's start looking for a dog for her.
Okay, great, because that's not the same as some other schools, so I appreciate that. So it's like you got to get everything in before you are even considered. So, okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that's a good point about the O&M. So for those participants that are not currently part of a Braille Institute program and have not gone through O&M, in the email that we send out, we will include information about our O&M program as well. So everyone that's here who has an email address will get that information in addition to information about admissions for Guide Dogs of America. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the chat, and I have a question from Vonda, and she says, how about using Sunu band with your guide dog?
I don't know what a Sunu band or a Sunu band is.
Vonda, do you want to say something?
Sure, and I'll take my camera off. So I attended one of the Braille Institute, this is me, and the Sunu band has a radar sensor. So if anything above or below on the ground within a radius around the person, you can extend it out 5 feet, 10 feet. So it works the same way in terms of like a bat, telling you for any obstacles. So can somebody who has already a Sunu band also transition with using a guide dog and use both?
Let me get 1 second, because I'm actually really intrigued by your question, and if I can get a quick answer, I will. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you to call Greg. Let me just ask, he's next door. Give me 2 seconds and I'll figure it out.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and consult. That's a new kind of solution out there. And so Zach has stepped away, for those of you who are not on camera, but you heard him, and he'll be back shortly to give us a little bit of information about that. And while we are waiting, I do want to let everybody know that we have gone overtime just a little bit. It's 6 minutes after 12 at this time, and I know that people have things to do and places to go and people to interact with. So if there is anyone who's in the session right now that needs to go, we thank you for being with us today, and we do understand. Now he's back, so let's see if he's got something to share for you.
I've got an answer. So, and it's what I kind of expected. In class, we train without technology. We're teaching you how to use the dog independent of the Sunu band or any other technology. Now, once you learn how to use the dog and you go home, you can, it's your choice to start incorporating it again, but we're not going to use it during class and we're not going to, incorporate it into our training.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that information, Zach. Do we have any other questions?
Hey, Wanda, it's Pam. Could I ask you a quick question, please?
Yes, Pam, please go for it.
Okay. Hi, Zach. I just was wondering, do you guys have any of the, I guess, would it be a hybrid dog with doodle to cut down, like to make it hypoallergenic, or do you guys not have any of those dogs?
We do not. So we
Okay.
did briefly, we did briefly include poodles and some labradoodles. They just
Yeah.
didn't work right for us. The desert uses poodles. There's a couple other guide dog schools. I'm blanking on the ones that I for sure know poodles because they've just been so in and out of the
Yeah,
industry.
no, I wouldn't want a poodle. I just want like a hybrid, like a labradoodle is what I was
Yeah.
thinking to keep
Are
down
you
on the sneezing.
are you allergic? You're allergic to dogs?
I
dogs?
I don't know. I'm allergic to cats, and when my brother's dog's here, it's a short-haired terrier type dog, and I'm kind of allergic to it. But so I would just be, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
would be very disappointed in guide dog school, and then I was allergic to my dog. So I just wondered.
So there's obviously people, those allergies range and they range from like severe to lesser.
Yeah.
I would say I do know that we've had clients come through that have had minor dog allergies and they combat it by taking an allergy pill. So if you're on the lesser scale, that might be a solution for you because if you want a dog, we'd love to see you
Sure.
get one. Especially that's kind of one of the reasons labs have a ton of hair, but it's not like a Saint Bernard or whatever. So
Right.
I encourage you to kind of test it out. Maybe see like, oh, if I take Claritin or Benadryl or whatever it may be, I can kind of manage it if you're that interested.
Right. Okay, Zach. Thank you so much. And
No
are you guys backlogged right now because of COVID? Because I'm guessing the academy is not. The dorms are closed.
A little bit. I'd have to check on the numbers. I know we've been getting a lot done through in-home trainings. We've had a lot like people that are repeat guide dog users. We've been able to go out and service them in their homes. So we don't. I would have to see what the backlog is for new students. I don't think it's anything like. I don't think we're booked out till like next year, but it might be fall until we're looking at holding a class where we can start getting a lot of people in.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Another question?
Yes, I have one. This is Joy.
Go ahead, Joy.
I've been waiting for a dog for it's over 2 years now, through Guide Dog for the Blind. And with all the things that have happened, I've already done all my training except for with the dog. And I don't know whether I should just drop the whole thing. They approved me for everything, and it's just been a year waiting. And with the COVID, but they're opening their campus, but for people that are an hour away, and San Rafael is a lot further than where I live. So,
well, I encourage you to start. It's an unfortunate situation, and this year has definitely been tough, especially for a lot of schools that really, they're so large. It was hard to stay open. But I encourage you to call Greg or start an application with us. You probably have most things prepared through your last application. I know that you were trying to go through them, but if you're interested, and it seems like the wait's going to be longer than you'd like, give us a call. We might have something more available and at least create another option for you. If you get selected to class, you get selected to GDV class in the meantime. It doesn't hurt to, we have plenty of people that apply to a lot of different schools, and it ultimately ends up coming down to what's the first one that's available for them.
Yeah, because they were going to give me the in-home training, but the lady that would do it is in San Diego, and she can't, so far with the COVID.
Yeah.
And they keep telling me,
Joy, Joy,
Yeah.
it's one. Just to clarify, did you say that was Guide Dog for the Blind?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I do have a contact. We did have someone from Guide Dogs for the Blind here a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you were able to attend. It was a very good presentation, but I do have a contact that I can share with you and see if there's anything that she might be able to, to tell you, or anything she might be able to do to help to be a resource to get you some kind of feedback. So I'll follow up and send you that information afterwards if you think that would be helpful.
Okay. The lady that I did part of my training with her name is Lucy in San Diego. She's
Okay.
but like I said, they said they can't find a dog for me in a year. I don't understand, but
Oh, yeah.
so
Yep. You have,
I
well,
don't
you
know
do
what
have
to do.
options. You do have options, as you just heard. So, but I will follow up and provide you
We'll
with.
take it.
Yeah. See, you got Guide Dogs of America saying yes, yes with the thumbs up. So you'll get the information from the workshop today, and then I can also share it's another contact person. It's not Lucy, and I'll share that with you afterwards.
Okay.
And then I think I heard one other person chime in that they had a question. Was there someone else who had a question for Zach?
Yeah, one more question from me, Wanda.
Okay.
I know you said that you had to your starting age is 18. What is your other end of the spectrum age?
That we don't have one.
Don't have one.
That's what we were founded on. No upper age limit.
Okay, I was
You
kind
could
of
be
curious.
100. You could be 102. You could be 102, and as long as you can walk and demonstrate a need, we're giving you a dog.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
All right, good. That makes me feel good. I'm up there.
We have a lot of, and we have a lot of older clients, and their uses for a dog definitely vary. I think the oldest that I've seen come through here was a lady named It was actually, it's a hysterical match, but it was a little lady. She was probably about 5'2", and she was 86, and she was going back to college. And we gave her the biggest dog that I've seen come through. His name was Valcor. He was 100 pounds. He was just a slow, mopey dog that fit her needs. So, yeah, no, as long as you can show strong O&M skills, you are physically capable of it, we'll get you a dog.
Also, when the dog is not on the harness, is it
Mhm.
advisable to take him out and play at a park or somewhere where he can run around and retrieve or anything like that? And also, if you do something like that and you take him out for a walk without the harness and he's on a leash, will he be like most dogs and want to stop at every tree and post and leave their message?
So that's a great question, and it's something that I didn't cover. I always know that I miss some stuff. So the harness is how the dog knows if it's working or not working. When it is in harness, work is on. It's time to behave. Their ultimate responsibility is you. When you take that harness off, it's just like any other dog. So it's going to want to play. It's going to, it eats, it goes to the bathroom. The harness off means that it can just be free. You can take it to the park. Playtime is part of that bonding experience. I like to say, like there's times when you can't always praise your dog. You don't always have to praise your dog through like love and affection. When your dog gets you home at night, that's a great time to play with your dog. It's like, okay, you just guided me home. They're like, woohoo, it's time to go to the backyard and play fetch.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I know that there's some of you that may have class shortly. So Fabian and some of the others that are here, if you need to go, this is a fine time. We want to thank you all for joining us today. But I see we still have some folks with questions and hands raised. So we're going to stay here as long as Zach will have us. So
yeah.
Thanks, Wanda. Thanks for all your help, and thanks for the workshop.
Oh, you're welcome, Fabian. Thanks for the support. I'll talk to you later. Carol,
Okay,
I see your hand. Bye, Fabian. I see your hand, Carol. Did you have something else for Zach?
No, I don't know how I raised that, but
Oh, okay.
but no, thank you for your time.
Okay,
Very informative. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay, so this has been a very
Wanda?
informative session. Yes, Ron?
Yeah, can I ask a question, or is there a hand raised?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I've been working on my O&M skills, but I probably won't be able to be signed off until maybe August, September timeframe, because that requires one-on-one, face-to-face training. And so given that, if I were to submit an application over the next couple of months, get everything all done and submit it in a month or two, what would that work? Could I go ahead and do that, given, I think that question was partially answered a few minutes ago, so I assume that would work. I could do that in parallel, but then what might be a very rough estimate of the time that I could actually come to the school for training?
So with that,
the 3 weeks training.
Yeah, with that qualification on it, it kind of skews I normally say the average wait time is like 6 months to a year. I think right now they're estimating like a year. So right now, a year from now would be the average wait time. It really varies. I actually almost never give like definitive answers to this. What I can tell you is that the application takes a little bit of time. You're going to have to find, there's work that goes into it, getting an ophthalmologist report, getting a physician's report, getting references from family and friends. That all takes time. So, knowing that you have until August to kind of get this stuff done, you can kind of piece it together and submit it as you go, or just gather it and then submit it at once. In the meantime, you can keep working on your O&M. Once that's submitted, we put you in front of our selection committee. They review everything. If you've got everything, you're usually, accepted. It takes a few random things to get someone not accepted. From then, it's really just up to Mother Nature and the waiting game. And when we have class, I would say you'd have a dog within 6 months of when you submitted your form, or within at least a year. It's just so hard not knowing when classes are. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but we'd get you one as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, good conversation. We had a great conversation today. We certainly enjoyed having Zack with us. So if there are no further questions out there, we're going to go ahead and conclude. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you, Kima, for bringing your O&M class. Just a really good session. And Zack, thank you for being with us. And we look forward to your next visit. Yeah, we like to have guide dogs a couple times a year. They're kind enough to come over and visit with us. So we'll look forward to maybe in the fall to have you back again. So thank you so much.
Send it to my calendar again.
Kima?
Will do.
This is
everyone
Sharon.
just...
I just want to say, Kima and Zack, thank you so much for this. It's just fabulous. I took screwball notes as fast as I could all the way through. And I guess, can I get a copy of you said it was being recorded. Is there any way to get a copy?
Yeah, this is Wanda. And yes, this session is being recorded. It will be available, and I'll share the link with everyone on this call, as well as it will be available on Braille Institute's YouTube.
Wanda, I also put in the chat the number. I'm going to resend all this. The number, the email, and so I put in the phone number for admissions. Why this isn't right? Crap. The phone number, the email, and our website. Just share that in an email with them, or give it to anybody that has questions. Our website's the Holy Grail. Most questions that you have can be answered on the website. If they're not answered on the website, give Greg a call. Tell me you're from Braille San Diego, you went to the presentation. If you don't want to call, there's an email listed there as well. If you don't like any of those, send a raven, I guess. I don't know.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you.